You're on the couch, half watching whatever's on TV, and there it is. That sound. Lick, lick, lick. Wet, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. You glance down without really looking. Your dog's curled up, working on their front paw with this strange, glazed focus, like nothing else in the room exists. Hey, stop that, you say, and they stop. For maybe 40 seconds. Then they start right back up. Heavy pause. You tell yourself it's nothing. Dogs lick their paws, right? That's just a dog thing. But here's what you don't know yet. That sound you've been hearing every night for weeks isn't a habit. It's not boredom. It's the closest thing your dog has to a sentence, and they've been saying it to you over and over while you've been sleeping right through it. Most people will tell you paw licking is just grooming. Dogs clean themselves, end of story, nothing to think about. And honestly, we treat it kind of like cracking our knuckles. A little nervous tick, no big deal, everyone does it. Actually, wait, knuckle cracking doesn't leave your skin raw and stained rust red between your fingers. That's not a habit, that's a symptom. There is normal paw licking, quick, occasional, usually right after a walk, cleaning off mud or whatever they stepped in. But the licking that happens at night, on the same paw, in the same spot, with that strange trance-like stare, that's a completely different conversation. And the part that gets me, the part that actually keeps me up, is that by the time most of us actually stop and look at the paw, not just glance at it, but really look, this has already been going on for months. Look directly into lens. Months. Picture this. You finally kneel down on the kitchen floor. You gently lift your dog's paw. They try to pull it back, because of course they do. And you part the fur with 2 fingers. And underneath, the skin isn't pink anymore. It's stained this dark, almost rust-brown color, deep between the toes. That's not dirt. You can't wash that off. That staining only happens after weeks, sometimes months, of constant licking. And here's the gut punch. While you were busy, while the house was loud, while life was just doing its normal life things, your dog was quietly, desperately trying to tell you something was wrong. They can't say, "This hurts," or "Something feels off inside me." All they have is this: lick, 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 until someone finally notices. And that someone has to be you. Okay, so here's where this goes. Point 4 is the one that throws almost everyone off because it has nothing to do with the paw itself. I promise that'll make sense soon. And point 7 is the one I almost didn't put in this video. Because once you hear it, you genuinely cannot unhear it, and it's going to change the way you watch your dog tonight. If your dog has ever done this, even once, even just a little, stay with me. This matters more than you think. So let's start with the excuse we've all used. It's just grooming. Dogs lick themselves. It's normal. And look, sometimes that's true, but here's the textbook version versus real life. Textbook says occasional licking is normal self-cleaning behavior. Real life is your dog licking that same front left paw for the 3rd night in a row while you're trying to fall asleep, and you keep telling yourself it's fine because, honestly, you don't want it to not be fine. Look down at an imaginary paw. Normal grooming licking is short. It's varied. Different spots, different times, then they move on with their day. Problem licking is targeted. It's repetitive. And if you interrupt it, it comes right back within minutes, like a habit they physically can't let go of. I've talked to so many owners who dismiss this for months only to find a full-blown infection or an open sore hiding under all that fur. So how do you actually tell the difference between just grooming and something serious? There's one physical sign that makes it obvious, and almost nobody's ever told to look for it. Here's the sign: brown or rust-colored staining between your dog's toes. Most people assume that's just dirt, or maybe a natural pigment thing. It's not. It's called porphyrin staining, a compound in your dog's saliva that turns this dark, almost brick-red color when it's exposed to air over and over, day after day. And here's the thing, that stain isn't really the problem. It's more like a receipt. It's proof of exactly how long this has been happening. Action. Kneel down, gently lift the paw, part the fur with 2 fingers. You'll feel them try to pull back a little. You part the fur and there it is, that dark tint on skin that should be pale pink. Sometimes it's a little warm. Sometimes there's a smell, kind of yeasty, a bit sour. The first time I found this on my own dog, I just sat back on my heels and felt awful. But that smell, that's not random. That smell is actually pointing toward a completely different cause. One most people have never even considered. That sour yeasty smell? That's yeast. Specifically something called malassezia, and most people only associate yeast infections with ears. But yeast loves warm, damp, dark places, and the space between your dog's toes is basically a perfect little incubator, especially for dogs who lick a lot, swim, walk through wet grass, or eat certain diets. Here's where it gets ugly though. The licking creates moisture. The moisture feeds the yeast. The yeast causes itching, and the itching causes more licking. Your dog can get stuck in this loop they cannot break on their own, and sometimes the trigger is sitting in their food bowl right now. Pause, and let's be real about what preventing this actually looks like. It's wiping your dog's paws after every single walk, every time. In the rain, when you're exhausted. At 11 p.m. when all you want is to go to bed. The damn paper towel, the dog who absolutely will not cooperate. You do it for 3 days. Nothing seems wrong, so you stop. That gap, that's exactly where yeast wins. But honestly, yeast is just one layer here. Because sometimes the paw isn't where the problem starts. It's just where it shows up. So here's the one that surprised me the most. We assume paw licking equals paw problem. Makes sense, right? But some of the most stubborn, repetitive paw licking is actually driven by allergies, environmental allergies, or food allergies, and the paw is just where that reaction happens to land. So we treat the paw, we put cream on it, maybe even a cone, just to stop the licking. And 3 weeks later, same thing, because we fixed the location, not the source. Paws. This actually surprised me when I first read about it. In dogs, allergies usually show up on the skin, in the paws, around the face, on the belly. Not sneezing or watery eyes like we'd picture with humans. Dogs basically wear their allergies on the outside. Which means that bag of kibble they've been eating for the last 3 years, it could be doing this right now. And if it's not allergies, there's another cause that's even less obvious, and honestly, even harder to sit with. We tend to think we'd just know if our dog was anxious, pacing, barking, chewing up the couch, that kind of thing. But a lot of dogs carry anxiety quietly, chronically. And one of the most common ways it leaks out is through repetitive self-soothing behaviors. Paw licking releases a small hit of endorphins. It actually feels good to them in a small way, so it becomes a coping mechanism. Heavy paws. Picture your dog in their bed around 10 p.m., not stressed looking, not howling or pacing, just lying there, quietly, methodically licking. That slightly glazed, unfocused look in their eyes. There's almost a rocking quality to it. That's not boredom. That's a dog quietly medicating themselves. And once that idea really landed for me, I couldn't hear that sound the same way again. So what do you actually do with all this? Because get a cone and just wait it out isn't an answer. Point 6 is where we actually start fixing something. The textbook answer is always consult your veterinarian. And yes, eventually you should. But real life is 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, the vet's closed, your dog is licking again, and you need something to actually do right now. So here's the real framework. First, check for a physical cause. A thorn, a small cut, a cracked pad, anything stuck between the toes. Second, look at the staining and try to gauge the timeline. How long has this realistically been building? Third, note which paw and which paw of the paw, because that consistency matters. Fourth, think back on anything that's changed recently. New food, new treats, new walking routes, anything environmental. And then start a simple paw wipe routine after walks, using a pet-safe wipe, not as a cure, but to interrupt the cycle and start gathering real information. Look into lens. You're not playing doctor here, you're playing detective. That's genuinely your job in this moment. But there's one more thing, and honestly, this is the one I almost left out of this video entirely. Here's the truth that's harder to hear than any of the others. In dogs with really deep bonds to their owners, paw licking can actually increase during times when you're stressed, distant, or just not really there, even if you're in the room. They don't have words for what they're picking up on, so they lick. Creator gets quiet. There's actual behavioral research showing dogs sync their stress responses to ours. When you're anxious, run down, or checked out, they feel it before you even said a word, and they absorb it quietly. So sometimes that licking isn't fix my paw. Sometimes it's closer to come back to me. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. I'm saying it because it means you are part of the solution here, not just a vet visit, not just a diet change, you. So that sound from earlier, the 2 a.m. licking, the one you've been half hearing for weeks, it's not a bad habit. It's not your dog being annoying or dramatic at the worst possible hour. It's the only language they have for something they physically cannot stop feeling. And now, you understand a little more of that language than you did 10 minutes ago. So tonight, check the paw, part the fur, actually look at what's there. And then, maybe, just sit with them for a minute. No agenda, no fixing, nothing to solve right that second. Just you on the floor saying without words, I hear you, I'm here, I'm paying attention now. If this changed the way you'll listen tonight, share it with someone whose dog deserves to be heard. And if you want to go deeper on dog anxiety specifically, that video's right there.